My name is Miguel Mata, first-generation American, retired military veteran, and now full-time college student. In my lifetime, I've come to meet people from all walks of life, every corner of the country and most parts of the world. What I can tell you is, everyone has a story. On this channel, I plan to share those stories with you and prove that despite the differences that make each of us who we are as individuals, fundamentally, we are all the same. I believe that by telling these stories, I'll actually reveal we are all connected by the common thread of overcoming adversity, caring for our loved ones, and helping our communities. And that by doing this, I can shed some light on what many of us believe to be a very dark world. And now, to shed more light. This Way Out. Hello, welcome back to This Way Out, and another awesome individual. Remember, we're just a show about positive energy, putting that positive energy in the world and showing that in kind of a little dark world, like we feel like we live in this dark world, there are good things happening, and there are good people that exist in this world doing good things for other people. And my guest today is exactly that kind of person. So if you don't mind, mystery guest. You're not a mystery guest. I know who you are. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm Angelica, but on social media, everyone knows me as Velvet Cat or just Cat. And so a little bit about me is that I am a full-time fashion illustrator, and I also teach fashion design on the side. And I recently started my YouTube channel where I share the knowledge that I've acquired through these experiences, plus now tarot, because I got fascinated by it. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. So you and I, our paths kind of crossed via Facebook on a page that you and I are members of. Mm-hmm. And, in that group, we all get introduced kind of to each other's products, right? Or each other's projects. And yours really kind of stuck with me because I like the, I love like the messages that come with your, that come with your videos. Just to give people a heads up, and this is, I'm not trying to steal any of your thunder here, but just to give people a heads up, Angelica will draw. She's a fantastic artist, very, very talented. And she'll have these fashion designs, for example, and she'll be drawing them out. And while she's drawing, she's not really talking about the drawing. She's giving life advice. Yeah. She's giving life advice, and she's talking to whoever's listening. It's like the drawing is something that you can appreciate while you're hearing these positive messages. And I gotta ask, that wasn't the whole thing. You have so many great things going on your YouTube channel, but that's really what kind of drew me into yours is that thing. Is that by design, or is that what's that all about?
Yeah, so it's funny because I tend to do things based on my ability and also a combination of like fear, like my comfort zone. And so for me, it was actually comfortable not showing up on camera.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's why, since I wanted to post on YouTube, lots of people kept telling me I should, and I did want to. I wanted to figure out a way that I could like ease myself into it, and that's why I started with posting the art with just me speaking, because then I also get to write it out. Like, I'm more of a writer, more of a thinker than a speaker. Like my mind is always like this, and then my words, I don't even know.
Interesting. So those videos that I came across that got shared in the group, mm-hmm. Those are early videos.
Yes, yeah, they're from like 1 or 2 years ago, and I was only posting maybe every few months, not constant. Now I am posting constantly, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting though. So the messages that you were putting out, those were scripted, or you just had an idea and you were kind of running with it?
Scripted for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, like I have lots of ideas. First it was in a journal, but then I started writing them all in a little note area in my phone. And so it kind of goes back and forth between my phone and my journal, and I'll cross off ideas that I'm working on.
Right.
Like for the YouTube, like that. Like I'll think, can I create a video with images? Like if as I gain confidence, I can go around LA, I could go interview people. And so are these topics good for people, for visuals, or are these topics easy enough for me to just script it and put it over the art?
Right. That's awesome though. But not but, and I threw out another but, the messages of affirmation, that positive energy that you're putting out, where does that come from? What's the motivation behind that? Why? Like, you could be talking about anything. You know what I mean? You could be talking about anything. You could be talking about how to draw whatever it is that you're drawing. You could be talking about anything, but you choose to put out, positive messages, the affirmations, the encouragement, that sort of stuff. Where does that come from? Where did that idea come from?
I think it's kind of been a part of me. Like my mom has been a huge inspiration. She is such a light. Like everywhere she goes, she's the life of the party. Everyone loves her. She's been amazing. She's just amazing. And even through struggles, like I don't remember her ever being sad, except for maybe when I was like 3 years old. I remember she was going through something, but I've never seen her sad. She pushes through difficulties, always there for us. And so maybe that's like, how kids, we tend to adapt our parents' traits subconsciously. So I might have gotten it from her. Yeah. And so I just love helping. It's just a part of me to just help.
Right. Yeah. More blessed to give than to receive.
Yes.
Yeah. That's really neat. So I guess, maybe this is a silly question, but would you consider yourself like a happy person? Have you always been that way? You have always been kind of a happy, positive person? Or are there like, is it a work in progress?
So it's a balancing act for sure. Like, I guess I do tend to gravitate towards the positivity. There's kind of this thing where I'm learning to accept what's not so positive, because I've always kind of pushed it aside. I think that's also another like subconscious training. Right. Since I never saw my parents fight. I never saw them angry. And so subconsciously, anything sad was bad. And so I would push it aside. I would be like, no, I shouldn't feel this way because there are people that are suffering more than me. So I shouldn't feel this way. And I would push it aside for like ever. But I did notice that it was weighing me down, and since I was never facing it, I was allowing bad people into my life, and like things were just a mess. I would always be, oh, I'm positive. No, that's not happening.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. That's actually kind of interesting. That I understand what you're saying. You had all this positive energy, you had this encouragement, this support, but you didn't have a whole lot of experience with negative. So your default position, if you will, was to kind of not deal with it or push it. Maybe not necessarily push it away, but just not deal with it. And you're saying that didn't, for a while, maybe that didn't necessarily work out for you. That was kind of that was part of your learning experience.
Yes, for sure. Definitely. Like, let's see, maybe since high school, I remember I did struggle, like 17 all the way to like 25 or 26.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Then I realized what I was doing and reading more books to try to help myself. That's where the self-development came in. And while learning all of this, I was like, how do people not know this? Like, yes, I love my parents, but they could have helped me by teaching me this. Right. Interesting. So that's why
I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna dive into that just a little bit. I mean, we're not gonna. I don't want to reopen any wounds here. But what would be an example that you would be willing to share? Because that sounds like you were very specific about that time frame, right? That 17 to mid 20s range, right? You were very specific about that time range. So that was a difficult period for you, right?
Yes.
And but you came out of that, just so that it's clear right now, if for anybody who's, never mind, I'm not going to insult anybody's intelligence by explaining it too much, but you're in a better place now, but it took that roughly 10-year period where you were having some difficulty. So like, whatever you're willing to share, like what are some of the challenges that you had to experience that kind of opened your eyes to where you are now?
Yeah. So I could definitely talk about these because these are, I feel like a lot more people experience them. Whereas when I was a kid, the bullying that I dealt with as a kid, that I didn't deal with. That's a whole other topic. Those are scars. The 17 to 25 to 26, those are where I was being so nice, too nice, to where I was like paying for friends' rents, or like allowing boyfriends to mistreat me, or like, yeah, just I was helping a lot of bums, basically.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
That were not trying for themselves.
You were allowing yourself to be taken advantage of.
Yes.
People were taking advantage of your goodwill.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, that reminds me of I can't remember if I talked about it in an interview or if I talked about it in a podcast, but it's definitely been brought up. But there's a saying, you know, that between givers and takers, right? Givers have to put limits on takers because takers don't know how to put limits on themselves.
Ooh.
Right. So givers, you know, it's up to givers to, and it sounds like that's what you were. You were a giver. Definitely. If you're paying other people's rent, mercy, you're a saint in a lot of ways. Of course, I understand that it's probably a little bit more complicated than that, but still, you know, when it comes to the difference between givers and takers, it's up to givers to set boundaries because takers, they don't know how to do that. So it sounds like that might've been something of what you were dealing with.
Yeah.
But at some point you had a revelation of sorts where you kind of turned that around. Was it like a moment, an incident, a situation that popped up where you said, put your foot down?
Yeah. For me, it was definitely a moment. I was living with a friend and my boyfriend at the time, and they kept fighting with each other, and in turn, I would be caught in the middle. So me being the nice person, I was always trying to calm things down and help them as well because they were struggling. And that's when it finally hit me how much everyone around me was affecting me. Like I was just thinking about all my other roommates that I've also helped, and how long I had forgiven my boyfriend at the time. And like it really brought me down to this one. It was like 3 days where I was just did not want to get out of bed. I did not want to work. I did not want to eat. I was just like frozen in the dark. Yeah. And my mom came up we spoke on the phone. And this is why I feel like I'm so blessed to be in the family that I'm with. She said, come home. Like, you shouldn't be there. We'll help you. And then you can get yourself back up. And so I did. I just left them. and I went to my family. And then I spent a whole year working on my business and just not really socializing as much to try to, like, find myself again.
Right, yeah.
I had kind of lost my creativity. I had lost my passion for myself. It was just, yeah, man.
Wow. Well, I mean, thanks, Mom. And, you know, here's to having good family and a good support system. You know, I'm sure you consider yourself lucky, you know.
Yeah.
You consider yourself lucky. That's really cool. You know, if you don't mind, I'm curious about your talent, you know. Have you always been someone who enjoyed drawing?
Yeah. I think in our family, we tend to have a lot of artists, especially in my mom's side. My grandpa drew, my mom draws, a lot of my cousins draw. And then I recently learned that some of my cousins and my dad's side also draw and paint. So it's like in our family. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've always drawn since I was a kid. Like my first drawing was when I was 5 years old. I still remember drawing Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
That's
And
cool.
my earliest drawings are from when I was like 3rd grade. I don't know how. Oh, that's 8 years old. Yeah, I still have those drawings.
Yeah, neat. I think you said something early on. You're in fashion. You're in the fashion business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How's that? What's that like?
So I mean, I'm like all dressed up even right now. So the reason why I fell in love with fashion is that I was so I just, art is a part of me. Like, I feel like art is me and I want it on me. Like, I want to be art.
Okay.
So that's why I got into fashion. And I haven't been like in the actual industry, so I haven't seen all the chaos that is a stereotype of the fashion world. I haven't seen that. I've done a lot of collaborations and they've always been awesome. Like, every model I've met, every photographer I've met, they've all been really kind, really fun. I'm still friends with all of them and I've seen their careers develop. So in my view, fashion has been really great, not the negative drama part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get deeper into fashion, or are you comfortable where you're at?
At the moment, I'm comfortable.
Right.
Possibly in the future, I did want to launch an animal rescue, and in this animal rescue, I wanted it to be funded by fashion, where I can combine both my love of like animals with, my creativity for fashion. And I feel like in that way, it would be a little more of a statement, because nonprofits aren't really, from what I've seen, I haven't found any that are super creative or fashionable. They focus on the cause, and some of them struggle with getting attention for their cause. So I feel like I could get attention with fashion.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool. Well, I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing what comes of that. I'm so curious. Like, you have like all these things going, like the entrepreneurship, especially. Like, where did that come from? Where did that? I mean, you've already kind of talked about it. You've got this appreciation for fashion, this appreciation for art. And then the entrepreneurship, because that is really like the nuts and bolts of what's of your makeup, right? You're wanting your own business.
Yeah.
How long has that been the thing for you? Has that always been part of the plan? I guess that's what I mean to say.
Oh, yeah, no, it wasn't. So that's a thing that I realized when I was in college, was that we artists are too hung up on the art and not necessarily on the sales.
Ah.
So that's when it clicked for me. Like, I want to help others to see the importance of business, that, they need to be aware of that. And especially because I didn't learn that in school. That's why I was like, okay, I need to teach others this information. But I think I got the bug from also my parents because my mom has same thing. She's just, oh my gosh, she's a leader. She's such a leader. When we were younger, she started an aerobics group. And that aerobics group grew from like maybe 3, 5, 10 ladies to over 50 at a like basketball gym at the park. And she was getting paid for that per hour. Like, she was making a ton of money. So much that people were starting to get jealous, and then they ended up kicking her out or something. I don't know.
Drama.
But so she did that aerobics. She started that, and it grew. And then she also would help churches, and in the churches she would manage to grow these churches from small little churches to these big communities. So she's always had that in her. I've seen it, and maybe that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do it too. Like, I didn't really think about that until just a few years ago. I realized, oh, I've seen her doing it. Maybe that's why I do it, And my dad, I heard his story of how he also started a restaurant in Mexico, and unfortunately it didn't work out because he didn't learn sales. But he still had that entrepreneurship. And even in my family and my grandpa's side, on my dad's side, a lot of them have lands and they farm and they sell their fruits and vegetables. So there's entrepreneurship in our
Right.
family.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I especially appreciate the community aspect of that story, of your mother's story, and how that still resonates through your projects, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're
Mm-hmm.
using your entrepreneurship to promote community,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's a big part of this project too, is to make people realize that we're all part of a community, right?
Yes.
It's about making connections. It's
Yes.
about understanding each other and appreciating that it takes a village
Mm-hmm.
to make something great.
It
And
does.
as individuals, yeah, we can do great, but as a team, even better.
Absolutely.
So, what was the other thing? Oh, the tarot. Yeah, that's right. The tarot. That's something that's fairly recent for you, a fairly recent interest. Where did that come from? Where did that interest come from? I just to just to give you a heads up, I spoke to another young lady on my interview thing, and her story is pretty neat about how she got introduced to tarot. So if you go back a few episodes and watch Myra Henley, she talks about her experience with tarot. What brought tarot into your, on your radar? What put it on your radar? I'm a military guy, but
Oh yeah, the radar. So I honestly can't remember what started it. Like I actually wanted to look it up on YouTube, because I know the first thing I did see was through YouTube about it. And so I actually wanted to go in my history and be like, go as far as I can with tarot to see which one was the first video I saw. But what I think got me into it, while I was watching the videos, were the images. Like something in the cards, since I love art.
Oh, okay.
I noticed the cards were so pretty. I wanted them in my hands. Right. And I just felt really connected to it. So I was like, all right, maybe I could try it out, just because the pictures were I was obsessed. I couldn't not look at them. So I got my first deck, and when I studied it a little bit, I got the hang of it, I realized how connected I felt with it and how easy it was fluid. Like it just came out of me.
Huh.
And I was kind of thinking back, possibly because of my family as well. I think I felt a connection to it because in my family, we do have a lot of like spiritual people and experiences like that. Like my mom did tell me that my grandpa, her dad, did also used to do tarot. Mm-hmm. But in his experience, it was negative. He wasn't really thinking of how to help people. So it did go on a downturn, like the worst you could think. So he stopped, and they see it as, oh, like devil, like no.
Yeah.
And but
especially if you have a strong Catholic background, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yep. And I just was seeing how I understood the aspect of spirits and like it could be something negative, but I kept seeing how the readers on YouTube were more inspiring and supportive than anything hurtful. Because I also had a stereotype against it. Before I started, anytime I heard of the word psychic or any psychic approached me, I would be like, nah, like stay away from me, no thanks. And once I saw it in YouTube and how much it really resonated, I just loved it. And I saw it was another way to help people. So then I was like, I want to help people. Let's try it out.
Yeah. Well, I think your readings are pretty cool. I like the way I like the way you generate them. I know you definitely have a weekly reading, one for the week, and then I think you have one for the month.
So for YouTube, I was doing weekly, but then once I realized where I wanted to go with my channel, I changed it to monthly so that I would have room for other ideas that still revolve around art and business.
Okay.
But I also do personal ones. Like I do them for my friends all the time, my friends and family. And then I actually have like a wish list in every video. so that if people do want a reading, they could like go to my wish list and get me a new deck for my videos.
Okay.
So that's how I'm doing it right now.
Okay. With Myra, my friend Myra, she made a really interesting point about how it gives you thought topics, right?
Oh,
Things that you
yes.
haven't thought about in a while, and it
Mhm.
kind of recenters you. Like, oh, I haven't thought about this in a while. I haven't thought about this aspect of this one topic in a while.
Mhm.
And I just thought that was whether you believe that there is anything spiritually happening within tarot. I really, really thought it was a good way to kind of be mindful of things, and I just thought that was I thought it was really, really interesting, and I thought it was a really good way. Would you say that
Yes.
that's pretty accurate? Like it gives you things to think about?
That is so, yeah, for sure. Like I actually, in my intro video for my channel, I put that another reason why I fell in love with it was because I realized how the cards call out your bull.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They put it up front for you to
Right.
face anything like you haven't faced, just like how she said, like it really puts your mind on what you haven't realized or what you've been ignoring, and I think
Right.
that's really cool.
I was hoping, because I wrote something down when we had our little pre-conversation, our pre-interview, whatever. I wrote something down that I was hoping that you could kind of elaborate on. So you said something on one of your videos that I thought was kind of cool, and I was hoping you could talk a little bit about it right here. But you said something one time where you said, "Love every obstacle." I thought that really stuck out. That really resonated with me. Can you talk about that a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So there is this book that changed my whole perspective about life because I did try the entrepreneurship journey. Like when I was 21, that's when I first started. I launched a business and it completely failed after spending like thousands of dollars on it. But see, I said completely failed, but there's no such thing as failure because we can learn from it. At first, it like was on my back for like ever. I felt guilty for like not only using my money, but I was using my family's money as well. I felt shame that it didn't work out. Like anger, sadness, anything. I was just like really killing myself for it. And then I read the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in that book, like within the few pages, he mentions about the obstacles in our lives. Plus, not only his book, but I also started following entrepreneurship Instagram accounts, and they talk about it all the time. And so I started noticing that about how we need to own our mistakes, to not be afraid of our mistakes, because every mistake means you tried and you're getting closer compared to someone that didn't. So I was just like, wow, like that really helped me to be like, okay, I am okay that happened. I'm still alive. I'm still pushing through. I'm not giving up. Like I can go way further. And I'm glad that I did start and that I did learn and that I maneuvered, I adapted to what else would work. Okay, that's not working. Okay, let's try something else. Like, you know, things like that. So that's why I said that. Like that was probably the simplest form that I could make it.
Right.
You know, love your mistakes, right?
Love your every obstacle.
Every obstacle. Yes. Yeah. And even in tarot, they talk about that as well. The cards talk about that, about like pushing through those obstacles. Yeah. Because also the obstacles, how you handle it shows you how strong you are and how strong you can be. Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. Couldn't agree more. I look at like obstacles and challenges and stuff like that, especially if you're in your pursuit of a goal, right? I kind of look at it like, you know, you're pushing up against something, right? Up a hill, right? I don't want to make any mythological references because there's actually there could be a negative spin on this analogy, on this metaphor, because there's a reference of this in mythology, but it's not a good one. But I like to think of like pushing up against something, right? Something very heavy. You're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing towards this goal, right? At some point, maybe you hit, it becomes very hard to push this thing, right? You get tired, or you just get, it just becomes impossible to push because you're out of gas, you're out of momentum, right? What you don't realize when you quit, when you run out of gas, is that you've actually created all this room behind you so you can get a bigger head start, to push this thing, just to push this, whatever this is, to push that out of the way, and then to keep moving forward, right? You've overcome a lot along the way. You just don't realize it. And then whenever you get to that stopping point, take a look back, appreciate the stuff that you've had to overcome just to get to where you are, and now realize that you actually now have a running start to go right back at this thing even harder, even faster, with even more strength, even more resolve. So absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that there's no such thing as failure, or not necessarily failure, but there's no such thing as running out of chances. There's no such thing. Every day is a new day. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I did want to mention with the topic of the obstacles, I feel like there's a couple of ways you could also take them. So there's the way of like pushing through to see your strength. And then I feel like there's another one, which is adapting, because maybe that obstacle is there for a reason.
Yeah. True. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. Didn't want to leave without saying that.
Well, I mean, hey, you just pointed out kind of one of my flaws is that I've had to learn in my time, is that you can't punch your way through everything. You know what I mean? Like you're saying Captain America, right? You can't punch your way through this. You can't punch your way through this, through this one. Yeah, that's true. No, not everything requires brute force to overcome. Sometimes it requires finesse. You're right. So, you nailed it. I wanted to ask you one last question here before we conclude this episode. In the videos that you put out, you put a lot of good information out. You put a lot of good messages out, all that stuff. I've said that already a million times in this one sit down. Have you ever considered a podcast or writing a book?
Yeah. So like podcast, I'm starting to get comfortable with my voice because I've always been like, ugh. When I don't know, I feel like maybe a lot of people go through that. Like they don't want to hear their own voice. And so that's how I used to be. But I've been receiving a lot of compliments about how my voice is soothing and calm. And I'm like, yes, like I like being the calm person. So I might do a podcast. I'm planning it out. Like, how with any business, you don't want to like spread yourself too thin on too many ideas.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm adding one after the next, after the next. Like I was able to grow my Facebook to 9K followers. I was able to grow my Instagram to 10K followers. And now I'm growing my YouTube, things like that. And in my mailing list to like a few hundred. Yeah. So it's like I'm growing each thing slowly and then I'll add something new. And so with the book, I did have like different ideas. So I wrote them down until I can actually like get to working on this project. I'm like, they're different ideas. Some revolve around fashion, some revolve around helping with spirituality and business. That's right. That's another part of your that's where the idea came up, actually, to ask you that question, because there's a video that you have that's very structured. You have a very structured plan. I think it was actually, hold on, is that the 4 Keys to Happiness? 4 Keys to Happiness, where you categorize ideas, categorize things. Yeah, I think that's the one about the steps to manifest your dreams.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah, the 4 keys, it's more like how to be happy. The 4 steps is actually step by step on how to like make.
That's probably the one I'm talking about. But I was like, wow, I was like that. Because I think that's one of the ones where you were drawing and talking. And I'm thinking to myself, I was like, I need to see this thing that because you're talking through it. And in my head, I can see the rows and the columns like a chart or a table or something like that.
I was even thinking of like uploading like a PDF in there, like a link to it so people could actually download it.
Well, I thought it was a great idea, and that's why I asked you. You know, podcasting or books. You know, I think you gotta, man. Obviously you've seen it, you just mentioned it, but obviously you've seen significant success in the social media world, right? You've got a decent following, a really good following. So congratulations in that aspect, and good luck the rest of the way. I think you've got I think you got some really cool stuff going on, and I feel blessed to have had this conversation, and I'm grateful that you spent a little time, you know, talking about what you've had going on, and especially, you know, sharing some of those challenges and that you've overcome, and here you are. Bada bing. You're a good example of persevering and, you know, overcoming challenges. I wanted to ask you one more question, and I didn't prep you for this one. I don't ever prep my guests for the closing question, but everybody gets the same one, which is that's because I'm looking for a genuine answer. If there was one piece of advice, a nugget, like I like to say, right? One piece of advice that you could offer anybody. It doesn't have to be about anything that we talked about already. Just you've got an audience, you've got an opportunity. What would you share with someone? What's something that you would say?
I would say be kind. Kindness is not bad. So that was something I kept hearing from people. They're like, you're too nice. This world is cruel. Like, you need to be a bad bee. Like, you know, that thing that goes around, and how social media and movies, they're always like the kings and the queens, like they put on a pedestal all the badasses. They don't put on a pedestal the nice people. And so I would say be kind in this cruel world. Yes, kindness is power.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. And I'm
as long
glad
as there's boundaries.
Yeah, the boundaries, right. The boundaries, right. That's also an important thing.
Yes.
But I couldn't agree more. And, you know, just hear you say that right now, it gives me a little bit more hope, because if one person is saying it, that's you, and one person feels that way, right? That means there's got to be two. And if there's two, there's got to be three. And if there's three, there's got to be more. You know what I mean? Which means there are good people in the world. There are not. The world can be very overwhelming, but here's one person, you, who feels, you know, who's positive and has this going for him. So good for you. And I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate you sharing that here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Angelica, I appreciate you spending some time with me and sharing your story. And I wish you the best of luck. What are your projects? Where can we find you? You got a website, Instagram, all that stuff.
Yeah. So website velvetcat.com. And you could search in Google and you'll find everything, my social media, my Instagram, YouTube, they're all Velvet Cat. They'll just say something different like art or tarot or and projects I'm working on currently, mostly focusing on YouTube, and a tarot deck actually. Yes. So working on a tarot deck and a zodiac art collection that I'm live streaming on Instagram.
Okay, cool. Velvet Cat also on Instagram, I'd imagine. Okay. Yeah. All right. You heard it here. If you made it this far, please tell me you did. If you made it this far, you've heard some good things, definitely. And give her a follow, give her a like, go look her up. I trust me, you will not be disappointed. Thanks again for being on my project, Angelica, and I wish you the best of luck. This has been another episode of This Way Out. If you are watching on YouTube, please click like, subscribe, comment with a little bit of feedback. I'm always looking for feedback. Comment and share. Spread the good. Focus on the good. I'll talk about focus on the good in a little bit. If you're listening to on the podcast, remember to subscribe and share the podcast as well. Podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Google Play, and will be available on the This Way Out website, thisway-light.com. and focus on the good. Remember, reallydesigns.biz is selling this way out t-shirts, and they're available in 5 different cool colors, and they say focus on the good on the back, which is why I always say help me share the focus on the good message. Go to reallydesigns.biz, buy yourself a t-shirt. Thank you again, Angelica. Once again, appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your awesome story. You guys take care. God bless.